Well, hello and welcome, friends, to the Bradford National Bank podcast studio here in beautiful downtown Highland, Illinois. This is the Highland Dirt Podcast. Let's go. I'm your host, Kurt Vonder. Haar. How is everybody doing tonight? You doing all right? I'm doing pretty good. We just had one of the biggest modified shows ever at Highland Speedway with the Mars Racing Series, and we have a big weekend of racing coming up in our area. Hello to all of our friends watching out there on social media via Facebook, YouTube, and X. If you have questions for us during the podcast, please put them in the comments and we'll do our best to get to them. We got a great show for you tonight. Joining us on the podcast will be our co-host, Jacob Blumenstein, and our special guest tonight is local super late model driver, Daryn Klein. The Highland Dirt Podcast is brought to you tonight by our friends at Jansen Auto Group. Hundreds of vehicles are available right now at gojansen.com with Jansen Ford Breeze, Jansen Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Carmi, and Jansen Chevrolet in Germantown. They have just the vehicle you're looking for. You can search their entire inventory at gojansen.com. That's gojansen.com. Jansen Auto Group is proud to support local dirt track racing and world famous Highland Speedway. Well, you might be asking yourself, what is the Highland Dirt Podcast? Well, the podcast features dirt racing talk plus news, information, and interviews from some of your favorite people in and around world-famous Highland Speedway. Well, the next question, what is Highland Speedway, right? Well, Highland Speedway is a quarter-mile, bullring-style dirt track. We're located in Highland, Illinois, just about 30 minutes east of St. Louis, Missouri. We've been racing in the dirt since 1962. We race super late models, modifieds, pro modifieds, and street stocks under the dirt car banner, plus micro sprints, 410 wing sprints, extreme outlaw series, 4 cylinders, vintage, kids mods, all in a covered facility with seating for 3,000 on the beautiful Madison County Fairgrounds. Did you get all that? Did you take notes? Well, now that you know a little bit more about the podcast, you got a brief history lesson on Highland Speedway. Let me introduce my co-host. He's a feature winner at Highland Speedway in 2024. He drives the number 51 in the Warrior division, and he is a big-time fan of Highland Speedway. It's Jacob Blumenstein. What's up, Jacob?
How are you doing, Kurt?
Doing pretty good. We had a great weather in Highland today. We'll see how the weekend holds out, but we had a busy night, Saturday night in Highland. We had the Mars Racing Series for the first of 2 visits in 2024, just the modifieds this time. And boy, did we have some modifieds show up, huh?
Yeah, I was. Me and you kind of texted all week, kind of what we thought the car count would be, and I think we were both wrong, and we got way more cars than we thought we would.
Yeah, I think total 41 modifieds in total. Some of the biggest names in the Midwest showed up. The track was juiced up. I mean, Mike McKinney set a new track record with a 13.458. I think we were sitting together watching when that happened.
hmm
Yep. But in the
Yeah, and
end,
I'm a big fan when new track records get set. It's just when it happens, there's a buzz in the crowd.
yeah, and we had Mike Norris. Mike Norris, the announcer from Fairbury, was on the mic, so it was cool listening to him on the call. But in the end, it was Michael Long. Once again, he won the Mars race for the second time in a row at Highland. He won the same race back in August. Was dominant again. What'd you think of his performance?
He's just tough to beat. He's good anywhere. He's been good for a long time. I wish he would come to Highland more because he always puts on a show. I wish the stick guy wouldn't have signaled him because I think we would have had a very good race. But I think he's one of the best in the area.
Yep. So let's explain a little bit what happened. So signal sticks did play a part at the end of the Mars modified feature. So Ray Bollinger, number 77, he was coming on the top. He was making the top work, and probably with what, 5 laps to go or so, long signal
Yeah.
stick guy basically told him start wiping, and basically it kind of killed Bollinger's momentum.
And when you're the leader, you're not necessarily pushing it as hard as you can most of the time. Not so he Bollinger might not have had anything for him, but when you're in the stands and seeing them running them down and they switch lanes, it sucks.
Yep. Yep. So, but hats off to Michael Long. Um, basically led from start to finish. So held off all challengers for the second time in a row. And then in the pro mods, we had a really good driver from up north show up again. D. Schwartz
Hmm.
showed up, passed for the lead on the top side in the pro mods, and pretty much never looked back.
Yeah, I seen Brett Arlenman. He was giving it a go. My cousin was up there, so that was good to see. So it was a good race all the way around.
Yep. Schumacher was making it work on the top side too. Um, and then in the street stocks, I don't know how much of this. I guess you got to see all of it. I guess in the street stocks, defending track champions Trevor Isaac. I mean, he led for a big chunk of the race. Looked like he had it in the bag, and then I think 3 or 4 laps to go, his car quit.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened, and that stinks when you're the leader and you break. I don't know if Terry would have had anything for him, but it's always disappointing when you see the leader break.
Yeah, I was doing the driver interviews for the other 3 classes besides the Mars Modified. So I was getting ready to interview. I had my questions ready for Trevor Isaac. All of a sudden, yeah, he broke right on the front stretch. I don't know what happened, but car pulled onto the infield and Terry McCann won the feature. And then in the micro sprints, boy, Chad Elliott in the 65E from Cottage Hills, he's got Highland figured out. He won here 3 times last year and already picked up his second win Saturday.
Yeah, I do enjoy watching the micros. I know he commented that on one of the posts, or I don't know if it was him, it was one of the micro guys that when those things are on, or he commented that the their lap times are a second faster than like the track record set by Michael Long. And someone was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, when those things are on the track, that's when I go to the bathroom." And he's like, "Oh, you can basically shove it. I don't really care what you have to say."
I did. I think I saw that. And yeah, I was getting some texts during that time from a micro driver that said, hey, I was running faster laps than Mike McKinney's track record. Um,
Yeah.
so, yep. And coming up in just 2 days, we got the super late models back at Highland. No overlap with any other local tracks on super late models. So, should be a good showing. Also, some other big races going on in the area. I know you enjoyed last year going to the Diggin' Dirt 40 at Brownstown, right?
Yeah, that was an awesome race. And hopefully they're able to get it in because I think it's the same circumstances as last year. The Outlaws rained out. So I think there's over 40 late models that showed up for a 5 grand to win, which is kind of it's always good. But some of the drivers, I know Tyler Erb was there, B Shep, Spencer Hughes, some of the big national guys stopped in for a 5 grand to win local show, and that was an awesome show.
So we're gonna do our weather dance tonight. We're gonna try and hold the weather off. I know it's not looking great for Friday. It's looking okay for Saturday. So we're gonna cross our fingers and hope that Mother Nature. I know you like to say you don't trust the weathermen, right?
I don't, it's they're wrong more than they are right, but the days we need them to be wrong, they seem to be right.
Yep. And we're looking forward as far as Mars goes. We're looking forward to May 18th next month. We've got a Mars late model and modified show down here. It's gonna be that'll be a good show.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. The Mars show, the one last year, they had some really good cars. I think a couple more guys announced that they're running it. I seen Jake Little's running for the Rookie of the Year, McCain Wanger. So I think that's going to be a stacked field again this year.
Yeah, and we caught Mars late models on the tail end of the season last year. So I think it helps us out this year catching them more at the beginning of the season when a lot of the guys are still on the tour, right? And still have a chance at the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just as the year goes on, the funds aren't there. People have big breaks earlier in the year, motors, cars. So it's good when you get the tours earlier in the year because that's when they're star stacked.
Yep. And crowds have been great the last couple weeks with the weather getting warmer. I mean, we should see some great shows in May at Highland. And we don't want to forget the MOA sprints, the 410 wing sprints, May 4th. I mean, those are the fastest cars on the track at Highland, right?
I think so. They sure look the fastest. I don't know their lap times, but I'm not a huge sprint car guy. I do follow it a little bit, but when those guys come to town, I'm definitely there to watch.
Yep. And they typically do not qualify. So I don't think there is a 410 track record. So if you look on track records, you won't see one for the 410 sprints. So I think they pill draw. So I don't think they do any qualifying But the open wheels are winning us over at Highland, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I know they usually don't get much around this area, but I'm glad to see it coming to this area a little bit more, and I think it's making new fans.
Yep. Well, how about let's bring on our guest for tonight? What do you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Well, he's been running really well to start the season. He's got a couple of feature wins already at Peevely under his belt. He just put on a show 2 weeks ago at Highland, driving from the back row to a second place finish. Drives the number 10 super late model at Highland. It's Daryn Klein. What's up, Daryn?
How's it going, guys?
Man, going good.
What's up?
It's
So
going. It's been a
what do
busy
you
week.
what do you got going on there in the background?
Not a whole lot here. We don't. I work on these cars like in the wintertime here at my house, but everything's in Fairview right now. We worked on it Tuesday night. The guys got it washed up and took it apart Monday night. So honestly, tonight's my first night. I had some family stuff to do last night. So kind of tonight's my first free night in the shop. I need to make a deck panel and kind of fit some fenders to kind of fix up everything that's left over from last weekend. Kind of praying that it gets rained out tomorrow. We're still a little bit behind the 8 ball with as much work as we had to do. So from that incident, so kind of just putting all the pieces together to kind of keep plugging away. It's kind of heavy wreck to have early in the season, but I got some really good guys, so we got through it.
Yep. Well, tell everybody what happened at Peevely. You had an incident while you were leading the heat race or the feature?
The feature. So the left side got knocked off of it for passing for the lead, so it kind of broke the roof, drug the sail panel off of it, knocked the door in the dirt. So that was kind of a portion of it. And then at the end of the deal, 4 laps to go, just a bad deal, very similar to what happened between me and Schlenk, just a misjudgment of a slide job. And it sucks, same deal, friends with the driver, really like the guy, Bob, it's a shitty deal. We all do it. It's not something that you got to let it go. And that's what we've done. So it just tears up a lot of equipment. So, the whole car had to come apart, which thank God I got such good guys because they had it all apart half a way before we even got there Monday to work on it, and then washed it, finished taking it apart, and then Tuesday we all kind of put it back together, straightened some stuff, and she should be ready to go Saturday if we race. I actually think I just got a message that we might not be racing tomorrow. I don't know.
Yep,
I couldn't read it.
Yeah, Mars Racing Series just posted,
Yeah.
just literally 15 minutes ago that Brownstown Bull Ring is postponed.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Jonathan, while I was sitting in the waiting area, messaged me and said that we're going to postpone it. So that actually really, really helps me out a lot. So take a little bit extra time, go through the thing. We've had such a good race car. I want to make sure she's right. We fought a lot of stuff last year, and we got a really good program this year. So when stuff like this happens, it's good to take the extra time, pull the stuff apart, go through it. Even stuff you wouldn't think would need to be pulled apart. Actually, we bent an axle, Saturday night because it was rough. Shit like that. It's just like you just got to take it apart and look through it and find that stuff. That way, it's not when the money comes into town. It's not what's hindering you from being competitive. So, good rain out. It's good for us right now.
Yep, I got you. Well, Jacob, why don't you kick it off?
So tell us about how you got your start in racing.
So my dad, I grew up around racing. We used to run out to Lebanon, I-44. I watched my dad kind of run whatever their local super late model class was, kind of grew up in the garage. As I got older and not quite my teens, but 10, 11, 12, he ran a NASCAR touring series, and it was kind of more like Milwaukee Mile, Gateway, Rockford, Dells up in Wisconsin. And I would go with them. They'd sneak me in the pits and kind of hang out with them guys. Got to learn a lot about race cars, a lot about, fuel and how much the fuel burn off. Just welding. I mean, all the ins and outs. About the time I hit 14, 15, my dad actually got me a go-kart, and I wasn't able to race with him because he was still racing. So I actually went on the road, or my uncle Danny and my cousin Casey Monte, he raced a crate car in our area, and a super, the 01 late model. And I would go with them. They'd haul me to the racetrack, and my dad would go racing his stuff, and I would go racing with them. Did that for several years, traveling kind of over Indiana, Arkansas, Kentucky, kind of doing that stuff, go-kart racing. And then when I turned 16, I got a pickup truck, got a little lawn trailer, and Frank Anderson owned the little Bedrock Raceway in Belleville. And I'd get off school, go work at Klein's till 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and load up the little trailer and go down there. And Frank would let me in for free. I was his Bedrock racer, and I would go kind of find people to help me set my go-kart down, pick it back up, and do everything myself. And normally I'd have a guy here or there that would help me, but for a while I did that by myself. And my dad went to one race with me in Missouri, Lasowski's, and got to see what was all involved in it, and the tire work and the prep and all the kind of the BS of it. Go-kart racing, there's a lot of little knick-knack stuff that normal race car drivers are not used to. And he was like, nope, this is not what we're going to do. So he turned around and got a Sportsman. Was not the road that I wanted to go down, just because I was so close with my cousin who got a late model and went crate racing at Granite. We did that for a year and a half, blew like 4 or 5 motors, went through a lot. I don't think I raced the thing but 10 times, 15 times. We did more work on the thing than we did ever racing it, which was not for me. It was burning me out pretty quick. So I actually went and got my own loan from Bank of O'Fallon, which is where our store does our banking. And they gave me a little loan for $5,000. I went to Gary Gershner. He sold me a car and started just working on it, piddling with it, and paid it off. And I had a body on it at that point, but no drivetrain, no motor. And about that time, my dad could see, like, yeah, let's do this. And that was when Gary actually talked him into, don't do the crate deal. It's a waste of money, which was really surprising. But we ended up getting a super motor from him and just focused on Highland and Belleville. And that was basically how I got just kind of leapfrogged all the other series and did it, which was really good because I was absolutely terrible on a Sportsman. I have no idea why, but I just never could figure out the process of it, the being out of the racetrack, the heavy lugginess of it, the kind of just floating around. I just never could really get a grasp on that. So it was really fortunate. I was able to find Gary, find that whole group of people, and they kind of led us down the right path. And then my dad was full on board once we got going on that. So,
because you guys bought a couple of cars from Gershner's, didn't you?
Yeah. My first car was, I went and picked it up in Ohio with a couple buddies. We did that on our own. Dad didn't even know I was doing that. I just borrowed his pickup truck and then showed up with it. And then the second late model we had was from Gary, and then our third late model was from Gary. And our first XR1 come from like Baltimore area from somebody that Cordy was working with. But yeah, would have liked to do a lot more racing with Gary. It was unfortunate with the way all that deal worked out and his passing. We were all set up to kind of go racing with him. So our actual 4th or 5th late model was also with him that he purchased, and we were going to go racing for him. But it was the year of COVID, and, you know, it was really sad what happened. It went down really fast. So, but, you know, it is what it is.
So who were some of the local guys you looked up to when you first started racing?
Man, I used to love going to Peevely and watching Shannon Babb and Randy Cordy. Loved it. I loved going to asphalt races and watching my dad. That was really, really fun. Watching him and Larry Phillips kind of battle it out growing up at Lebanon. So always my dad. But, man, there was nothing like going to Peevely. And when it was juiced up and qualifying and listening to Shannon or Cordy go around that place and just not lift. It was just nothing like it, because you'd go there on a local night and you'd hear them burping the throttle and feathering it, and then you'd hear them guys go around the track, and it was just like, how in the hell did he just do that? Them guys will always be the two that I look up to. Their driving style, how they've been able to do it for so long, like that's just incredible to me.
How old were you the first time you raced a super late model?
Ooh, probably 20. I would say 21, somewhere in there. I lost a lot of years in that Sportsman deal. I want to say that was 2 years, year and a half. We kind of pedaled around in that deal. And I know we didn't. I didn't get out of go karts till I was 18. I did that deal on my own for a while. So I probably 2021.
Yeah. Where'd you go to high school?
Mostly at O'Fallon, and then I had to finish at Collinsville.
Okay.
Some parents moved, and some things went on, and I had to switch schools halfway through. High school was not my glory days. Wasn't in sports. Was cared more about going racing on the weekends. Was not my deal. Wasn't very good in school. I don't know. School was not my thing.
So, did you play any sports in like junior high or anything growing up besides
Yes,
racing?
all of them.
Okay.
Hockey, soccer, baseball, all of them. And then just, man, once he got me that go-kart, nothing competed with it. I played soccer for a little bit longer just because that was what I was really good at, the running and all that. But even after that, once I got to racing, it didn't take very long for all that to go downhill.
How did you kind of get started with the dirt track stuff? I mean, sounds like your dad was into pavement, right?
My dad had a dirt background from local guys and helping and racing for people. And man, the asphalt racing was just not feasible. We, it's that deal is very, very different than what we're used to around here. It is, and it may be different now just because I've been so far removed from it, but it was working the shop for a month to get prepared to go racing for a weekend. And you were at the same racetrack, you ran that race, and then you came home, and then you just worked for another month and then went to another race. It was very, very odd to me. I am way too ADD to be involved in something like that. I'd lose interest. I'd go find something else to do. So I think even it burnt my dad out on the way he was doing it. It was just too far and few between getting like the gratification of it. So I think we all knew that the dirt racing was the route to go. His partner, Glenn, actually had a kid that was also racing dirt cars, sportsmen's that they built. So it was just kind of in line with where they were. They were migrating away from asphalt racing too. So it just made sense, especially with all the racetracks in the area. You know, at that point, shoot, Belleville was running every night. Peevely was running every night. Highland was running their own program. Granite was running their own program. I mean, you could go to 50 shows a year and not even leave the metro area, you know?
Yep. Do you guys still watch pavement racing? Do you watch NASCAR? Do you watch anything like that?
I'll just because of Kyle Larson, I will turn on a cup race,
Hmm.
you know, but I and Christopher Bell, just because I've watched them guys at Chili Bowl so much, but I know, no, I won't turn on. Like, I know Junior's doing the CRA deal and having like trying to do the flow thing. I don't even really turn them on. You know, follow Bubba Pollard maybe a little bit, and that is it Nice or something. Them two, but kind of know a little bit about it, but it's not anything that we're following like dirt late model racing or even sprint car racing. I'll turn on high limit and stuff like that.
So you do like watching some of the open wheel stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I got that bug from Zach Down, my buddy, and went to Chili Bowl for, I don't know, 8-10 years straight.
Hmm.
And I love that. There's nothing cooler than going to the Chili Bowl. Even a good sprint car race now and then at a good racetrack is really, for me, is just like, it puts me in awe. Like, holy shit, these guys are, I don't know how they're keeping track of what they're doing.
So if there's not a big super late model race on September 14th, you might be at Highland watching the 410s, the Extreme Outlaw Series, the Micros. It's going to be all open wheel on September 14th at Highland.
For sure. No, I would definitely be there. I think last year they had it scheduled against something we were doing local, like, I don't know if it was Peevely's Pepsi Nationals or something that we had to be separated. But no, absolutely. Anytime I can go watch Dom race local, DuQuoin, or anything that I can get to and don't have anything going on, I try to go.
Yep. Well, you got married not too long ago. I
Yeah.
think your wife Sierra is in the comment section. I see her there. So how did you and your wife meet?
Boating.
Okay.
Second favorite pastime. We go out to Carlisle or the river, Kaskaskia River, in our free time, and just strolled up. And I had known her family because her brother had wrapped my race cars. And so I had known her two brothers and her family, but I had no idea they had a sister. And I just was drinking all day, strolled up, was talking to the family, and she come floating up in a jet ski. And um, I found my way to hop on it and take a ride with her. So then the rest is history, I guess. I don't know.
Does she enjoy dirt racing? Does she enjoy coming to the track?
She is the only woman I have ever met that is as patient with racing as a woman can be. So I will tell you, she is the best built for it that out of probably anybody's wife, without taking it overboard and just being more involved in it than she should be. So she's perfect for it. She understands, like this week, I haven't been around much and having to really dedicate a lot of time to it. She kind of just goes with the motion really, really well with it. So I'm very, very grateful to have someone like that in my life that can kind of roll with the punches on it. We don't have a kid yet, so I'm sure that'll change it a little bit, but we're very, very fortunate. But kind of the more and more we go, I'm trying to get this place, our house, our shop set up to where we can kind of split a little bit of the duties once we do have a kid, and can kind of spend a little bit more time, even though I don't spend a lot of time at our shop, away, and can cut tires here, work on shocks here, even build body panels here, and allow them guys to kind of do the week to week, the load and the unload and the washing. And then I can focus on kind of the stuff that I need to focus on and the stuff that I'm more responsible for.
Yep. Is she as competitive as you are?
No, she's the most easygoing, down to earth person in the world. Other than an argument, if she thinks she's right, she thinks she's a woman at heart, so she thinks she's right. But
So she's not like some of the other racing wives, significant
no,
others that are hopping on social media and hopping right in the comments and
no,
defending you to no end. Nope.
no. She's got. I don't want to call it couth, but she's better than that, and she kind of knows that. I don't know. There's no good way to say that. She lets me handle my battles, and
Yep.
I'll help her with hers if she needs it. But I let her handle her battles too. So that's the way it should be. Unless if she's getting taken advantage of, then it's time for me to help her out. So no, in the same way, unless if I'm getting taken advantage of, I'd rather me take care of my stuff, and that way it doesn't ever. She's got a pretty important job that she can't really be running her mouth or doing anything like that. So I'd rather her just kind of stay in the background and let me handle it.
Yep. Keep the racing and the personal life kind of separate
Yep.
a little bit. Yep.
For sure.
So Daryn, you work with Randy Cordy on your late model. What's it like working with a local legend?
Man, it's awesome. We've been doing it so long. I sometimes I call him my stepdad. He's so involved in everything. We talk so much. I try to help him where I can, and he helps me tremendously where he can. It's kind of a partnership at this point. It's grown beyond a friendship. I've been there for things in his life that he's gone through. He's been here for things that's gone through in my life. He's watched me grow up. So we don't do anything without him knowing about it. And same deal. Like I try to stay up on, how Mike's doing and with what he's got going on his bike, or kind of rely on Randy to kind of keep me up to date on that. So we're constantly, it's the day doesn't go by that I don't talk to him. So I'm really grateful for that friendship. I don't know what I would do without it. You have to have someone like him and racing at this level to take it's like a passion thing. You got to be in it all day, every day, hearing what's going on from all these different avenues of what's going on. Longhorn camp, the XR1 camp, the different shock companies, and hearing what's going on and the different things that are being done. And there ain't a person in this area that eats it up as much as him to hear what's going on. And that's from a technical standpoint, for me, that is where you can't even put a price on it. I can handle the at the racetrack stuff, what I'm feeling and where to go with the car and what to do. But I can't eat, breathe, and live it like he does. At some point, I got to walk into a customer's home and work on their dryer. Like I can't just be on the phone all day or answer it whenever I need to, where he is just, that is all he cares about, man. He loves it. And that's why he's so good for the customers he's got, is because he can do that.
So what are some of the things he's taught you?
Oh God. Everything. I mean, it's gone in iterations. Now we don't scale cars, but he taught me how to properly scale a car. Now it's the smashing, the smasher, tire work. I mean, the man is just, every tire that Mike Harrison runs on that 33 car, that man cuts. Everybody should appreciate that. Like every single tire, he cuts, mounts it, sipes it. Well, Twat might mount it, but he cuts and sipes it. Everything. He is just, and the passion of it. Kind of staying level-headed too. He'll lose his cool every now and then, but honestly, for what it is, Randy is really all about keeping cool on the racetrack, and he's taught me a lot with driving too when it comes to that, and not letting things rattle you, and kind of running your own race and kind of focus on what makes your car work. And he's helped me a lot with that. Actually, all of his customers, if you ask all his customers, they're probably going to tell you that he helps them with their driving more than they help him with the actual setup. The setup, just get it close, get it to where it's normal, and then let's work on the driving. So for sure, the driving.
So he still has a feel for what's going on in the cockpit and what you're feeling as a race car driver.
Oh yeah, you don't lose that. I mean, the cars have changed a little bit, but a lot of the stuff we're still doing now, they were on the forefront of it when he got out. So the stack right fronts, the extending the left rear chain, some stuff, a lot of stuff changed in 2015 with the 6 car, but and that's kind of where we're all at now. And then it kind of changed a little bit with the droop rule, but for the most part, I mean, he can see what you're fighting and give you a way out. And that sometimes that's the most important thing. Sometimes it's not about fixing the race car. It's about fixing your entry. It's about fixing your center. It's about fixing out where you're at on the racetrack. Guy can come in and say, I'm out of the racetrack, but he just went in and drove in a car length less than the guy that is running a good line and bending the car 2 car lengths back behind him. And it's just like, well, wait a minute, we got to fix this before we worry about the race car. Been a big proponent of, watching lap times. That's the biggest thing right now, I think, in late model racing, is that we've kind of got away from what feels good and what's fast from the driver's standpoint. Now you can make a car feel really, really good and comfortable, but you're slow and you're out of lap time, where, it's searching and finding that lap time. And, he's kind of was big on teaching me how to look at that. And that's kind of been in the last couple of years where that's come in. So it's constant, man. He's constantly adapting and changing with it. So that's why he's got the guys that he's got, Frankie Heckness, Mike Harrison, me, myself, worked with Brian Shirley. He's got a lot of good guys from this region he's worked with.
Yep. Well, tell us a little bit more about your race program. Like, who helps you out? Do you guys have specific roles on things that you work on the car? Things like that.
Yeah. So, naturally we got Jason. He's on the, his is YouTube. He really focuses on that. And then fueling the race car and kind of pulling tires off and stuff like that. He's probably our newest full-time pit guy other than, Ogre, Brandon Voss. Sorry, Jason Zobers, but I kind of stole him from Jason. He's kind of been my, per se, crew chief. He kind of keeps me level-headed at the racetrack, and really is in charge of like watching the attitude of the race car. You kind of almost need a guy like that anymore. You're beyond just feel and setup. You have to have a guy that's watching the attitude of the race car. So that's really his focus. Dave Hauser, man, he's like my older brother. He works for us, which so does Jason, but he's worked for us for 30 years. He grew up with my dad racing. He does all the car maintenance. Like if we hit like this week, we hit someone on the left front, right front. He pulls the whole car apart. Me and him will go through, check bolts, check front end components together. So he's the general car mechanic, and then my dad kind of fills in where everybody else is, mainly motors, and then fixing the right rear spoiler panel. He's kind of taken that into his own. So he really likes fixing that. Everything back there is his little deal. So, and then we got Nicholas. His dad grew up racing with my dad, but he's a little bit younger than I am, and he takes care of all the tire work. It's his, I'll cut and sipe a tire here and there, but other than that, grinding, cleaning, keeping track of the heat cycles and where we ran them at and flipping them and doing everything, that's all him. So I got a great group, for the 5 guys that we work with. And then we got fill-in guys that come pop in and stuff like that are really good. As far as at the shop, we got George. He kind of helps polish the truck and trailer, and older guy, ex-welder, and he comes in and just kind of piddles with stuff. So I couldn't ask for a better set of crew guys.
Yep, and definitely follow your Daryn Klein Racing on YouTube and across social media. Yeah, you've been putting out YouTube videos for a year or more now. Has it been a year?
Yeah, no, shoot, I think longer than that, maybe a year and a half, 2 years.
Okay.
Jason does really, really well with that.
Yep, agreed.
And tries to put 2 videos out a week, one at the track or whatever racetrack we go to, and then does like one in the shop. We're kind of update on where we're at and where we're going to go for that week.
Yeah, kudos to him and your team, because it's not easy to keep that kind of schedule up. You
No.
think, oh, I can do 2 videos. I can do a podcast every week. It's no problem. Man, they come pretty quick. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's got to eat up a lot of his time. I have no idea what's involved in it. I don't act like I do. I will sometimes rush him to get a video out just because I kind of want to see the footage. I like to see the in-car and more or less hear the throttle and stuff like that of what I'm doing and where I move and how I move. But other than that, I try not to bother him with it because it's something that I would never want to undertake because I don't have the time or the patience for it.
Yeah, and the creativity. I mean, I've talked to Jason about it. No, Jason, kudos to him. He does a great job. I know he's in the comments watching. So
yep.
Don't get too big of a head, Jason. But you do a good job out there. And you made some changes on the car in the last year. I mean, I think was it maybe a new shock package? You got a new Durham motor under the hood. Talk about that a little bit.
It's all different this year. We actually went back to an older car that we've had for a year. I only ran it 2 times last year. We kind of used it as a test car at the beginning of the year. We kind of learned what we wanted to learn off of it, and then we put it all on the car that we had bought last winter and then ran that car all last year. That's the one that's actually behind me, half apart because we stole half the parts off of it. But so we went to a different car. Basically, someone had told us, the guy that had it before us, Rick Eckert, was kind of feeding information through a couple other people that was like, that's a good car. It's the best car I had ever ran. He won a World of Outlaws race with it. So we put it together kind of last winter, was like, we guys just got to try it. This thing that's behind me, it was a really good race car, but it was finicky at times where I just couldn't get a grasp on it. And when it's like that, you got to try something different. So we got that car put together. And in the meantime, we found a really good deal on a motor. It was one of Brian Shirley's old motors, a little bit bigger than what we're used to and a whole lot newer. And surrounded by all that, we were mixed on what shock program last year. We had put everything on. We had ran Integras, Foxes, Penske's. I mean, you name it, we've tried it last year. Well, so going into this year, we were kind of watching Florida and seeing what was going on, knowing that the Rocket Camp was going Foxes, but then PRI happened, and my buddy Nick from Penske, kind of basically called me, and Jason Durham called me, which is the guy that I kind of go through on Penske. Was Jason Durham's, or is Jonathan Davenport's ex-crew chief, and he works for Stormy Scott now as his crew chief and taking care of that program. And he flat out told me, is like, Penske's back in the game. That's the route we're going. You know, be patient. We're gonna work through this. And right away, you know, shoot, Nick was at my wedding, you know, party here in the shop. So I wanted to work with Nick, and I that's really the only people that I want to work with is Jason and Nick on the shock stuff, because they're just so easy going. I can text them at the racetrack. If I got a question, they answer me. It's just super, super seamless. So I'm really glad that all happened. So we sent everything back to Penske, was able to go through all of it, get some updates that they had been working on. And what we got going on right now, I haven't been in a race car that's quite as impressive since maybe 2019, and we had a hell of a year 2019. I think we won 17 races. So I am just kind of stuck everywhere I go. It don't matter if it's wet, it don't matter if it's dirty, it don't matter if it's slick. Now, we haven't raced with some really good competition yet in some bigger races, but I really, really think we have the car to do it. I don't know if I'm the driver for it, but because I make a lot of mistakes, it seems like, in them races, looking at myself constructively in the last 5 years. But we got the program to do it. It's just putting it all together.
Yep. Well, Jacob had texted me, I think, when you were at Brownstown. I think you'd qualified at Brownstown, if I remember right. And you were running like 0.3 of a second quicker than everybody else in qualifying. And because we were talking, going back and forth. You were going to come on the podcast, but then you had a root canal, right?
Last Thursday.
Yep. Looks like you're doing it. You're in good shape back in.
Honestly, I was really worried about it, but it didn't bother me in the least bit. Next day, that night kind of sucked, but that next day I was fine.
Yep. Well, I mean, 2 wins at Peevely, going from back row to second at Highland, running out front, you know, for the last feature at Peevely. I mean, you got to be happy with how the car's running.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially if you look at the racetracks we've been in. We've been in the rough. We've been in the dirty. We've been in the Peevely was really slick one night, and we were okay with some things to work on, but I think we've made some adjustments there that we've already even tested that have been better in that situation, that would have made us better in that race. And then the first night out of Peevely, you know, I kind of I don't ever try to be the one that gloats, because that's never good. But every now and then, any race car driver will tell you it's good to have a night where you kick some ass. To win in a race here and there, you know, it kind of screws with your brain if you just kind of win by a little bit. You know, you always question it. You go back and you watch the video and you look how Michael ran or Chad ran or Matt Bailey ran, and you're like, well, they were doing a better job here than I was. And you pick yourself apart, at least I do, because I'm always looking to kind of make adjustments on the fly. And the only way you do that is it's got to be intuitive. It's got to be in the moment. So the only way you do that is you kind of, it's all in your head. So I hadn't won a race by several seconds in a long time, because Michael was extremely good last year, like better than I was, one hands down. He kind of screwed with my head a little bit. So, and Mike was really good and came into 33 and just started kind of kicking ass. So it was just really hard for me to find the speed that I thought I needed to kind of feel confident. And that first night out, it kind of gave me a lot of pick me up of like, okay, it's maybe a little bit of the car, maybe a little bit of the motor, maybe we were a little bit behind in the shocks, and I'm still okay. And I just need to, you know, make good laps. So no, it's been great. I'm really, really looking forward. I'm glad tomorrow rains out because we're not ready, but like looking forward to, I think Mars is at Highland in 2 weeks, 3 weeks or something like that. I'm really looking forward to that. Looking forward to getting kind of summer nationals racing and seeing where we're at with all these guys. If I have an opportunity to win a 5 or 10,000 to win race with some good competition there this year, it would be my year to do it. So hopefully we can do it.
I think that leads right into Jacob's next question.
Yeah, that was basically my next question. You've had some good runs at Highland, Tri-City, Peevely, you know, so that was going to be my question. Is this the year you finally get a Hell Tour win?
Man, I sure hope so. I've led a lot of them, and I've lost them in a lot of different ways. I don't know. There's a lot of regret in a lot of them races, whether it be burning the tires off too early, whether it be not making a small adjustment that would have got me through the last 10 laps, whether it be, I mean, Jesus, I about run over Bob Gardner lapping him one year at Summer Nationals. I was plumb gone. That was probably our best opportunity to win one. But I don't know. I beat myself up a lot on them deals, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is on them races, why I can't correlate my local success with them races. I don't think I'm not hard on tires as far as what our tire program looks like. I think we get so out there on big races and we do things that we're not normally used to doing, or we don't pay enough attention to. This is where the lap time deal comes in. We don't pay enough attention to lap times. I know that's kind of screwed me on a couple of them where the racetracks dropped off a lot more than what I were used to on like a local night, and we weren't keeping track of it, and that's kind of messed me up. Hopefully keeping track of lap times is going to help me this year with trying to predict what the racetrack's going to give me, but I don't know. It'd be nice to break through because I've been really close. Probably 3 or 4 times, really, really close to winning one.
Do you plan on running more than 3 or 4 this year, or are you going to try to run several of them?
We're just going to run the ones that are around here, man. I'll be honest with you. I love coming home. Coming home at 4 a.m. because we just drove 5 hours home. It's not for me. I get beat up by my buddies, Chris Simpson or Gordy Gundaker. Like all of them have all been on the road. I'll be honest with you, I don't enjoy that. I like staying in the pit area afterwards and drinking beer till 3 a.m. and having the camaraderie of it and racing. So I will run the ones around here. I'd like to run Lincoln. I'd like to run basically the ones that were in a 2-hour circle. Spoon River is one that I'd like to go back to. I ran there for Gary, and I liked the place. We blew a motor and a left front tire flew off. Thanks, Paul Cooper. But he was my tire guy that night. But I'd like to do that, but I don't want to get nuts with it. It's just not it. Someone would have to come to me and say, "Hey, you don't have to have a job. Let's go racing. Let's go run the Summer Nationals racing." And that's all you do. I don't want to work 9 to 5 and deal with customers, deal with the family business and in the capacity that I do, and then be focused on racing and trying to understand where my racing program is and then go race with them guys. It just isn't. There ain't a guy that's successful with it that's doing it that way anywhere. Look at all the regional racers. Look at all the national level racers. There's nobody successful at it doing it that way. And I can tell you right now, I wouldn't be successful doing it that way. So just really not interested. So the Highland, Brownstown, Peevely, Granite. I think Granite's got 2. So 2 there. Probably Lincoln, Spoon River. I'd really like to go to Fairbury, depending on what that does with Bi-State, because I'm sure we're going to run Bi-State just because it makes sense. So see where we're at. I'm no good at Farmer City, so that's why I don't go there. I'm just I cannot figure the turn with the wall out. I don't know what it is about that place, but I can't figure it out. So I just kind of avoid it. And yeah, I'd say them 4 or 5, 6 racetracks.
Well, you stay busy with work. Tell us a little bit about maybe the family business, Klein Brand Source in Fairview Heights. It's been around for a long time. Like, kind of who started the company? How long have you been working there?
Shoot, I've been there since I was 13, if not earlier. Done everything there other than selling appliances, just because that's not really my gig on the sales floor. But yeah, my grandpa started it. My aunt and my dad own it now, and my uncle is a huge part of it running. Isn't an owner, but it wouldn't run without him, so he's there every day. And then it's my cousin and me are the third generations that are there out of the family. So he manages the sales department. I manage and work the service department. So I run calls during the day and kind of will get involved in service deals here and there. But a lot of that, my dad deals with. So my dad and my aunt kind of just run the store. My uncle, he pretty well manages the store, and we just keep making it work. It's great family business. We do really well for ourselves. So it's the only way we are racing. I can tell you that with my dad. So I'm very, very happy that we've built the Klein name to what it is. And it's a good place to go. So if you need appliances, come on and see us.
And if you want super late model driver Daryn Klein to come service, your
Yep.
washer or dryer, yeah, call Klein's Brand Source in Fairview Heights, right?
Yep. No, it happens all the time. I very, very much see a lot of race customers, and I'll just be kneeling on their floor working on their fridge, and we'll sit there and talk about racing. So it does happen quite a bit. It makes my day go by easier and a little bit more forgiving. So definitely, the more racers that call us, the easier my day is. So call us all you want.
Yeah. Well, you work with your family, you race with your family. How do you guys manage to do that without driving each other crazy?
Me and my dad have our moments. I'd be lying if I said we didn't. Our relationship is more like brothers. I am his younger brother, and we wear each other out. I love him all the same for it. I couldn't do it. Might not show it a lot, but I have more respect for my father than anybody could absolutely even comprehend. Um, it's just tough because our relationship's so much different than most father sons. Um, so I'm tough on him. He's tough on me when he needs to be. It's one of them deals. The way we talk to each other is not how I wish we could talk to each other sometimes, but we're together so much, and sometimes it's just off the cuff more often than it's not. So if you ever see us kind of going at it, we're not bad. It's not something that it's just we're more brothers than we are father son sometimes, and but we get through it, and it don't matter. We could be screaming at each other on a Monday, and on a Tuesday we're working in the garage together. So it's just is what it is, and that's how it is, I guess. I don't know. I'm sure. I do know this. It's weird. I got moved into the store as the service manager solely. I don't know, a couple years ago in 2019, and our relationship got better. So the more time I spend with him, I think the easier going I have with him, which is really, really odd. But man, I would not be able to do racing. I wouldn't have been able to build this building. I wouldn't have been able to do I wouldn't be able to keep my wife without my dad. So I can tell you this much. My dad's involved in every corner of my life, and for the better. So, and I couldn't do it without him.
That's great. I think that's a great testimonial for your dad
Yep.
there. I'm sure he'll appreciate it.
Yep.
So, Daryn, the late model rules. What do you think of the body modifications and the Rubers of the template coming to dirt car?
Dumb. So dumb. There's not a local guy out here other than maybe Mark Voigt that could build a body to its template. We're all just it's going to force everybody to buy stuff. It's going to force you to buy their body bracketry. I don't know how to explain this to people, but to hang an asphalt late model body, I only seen like one or two get done because I was so young. But you not only had to buy the body, and not only had to buy all the supports that hold the body while you're racing, like our cars do, the T-bars and the deck bars and all that, but you had to buy a body hanging kit to hold the body in the right position while you hung it to where it would match the template. Or make it, which was even worse. It's not what we need. Everybody's argument. Doug Jenkins, respect him a ton, love the guy to death, but I know, like, I don't comment a lot on Facebook. That's not my deal. I don't get on there. You'll see me very rarely make a comment or make a post. It's mainly sharing stuff and then absorbing information. But read a lot of what he put out this week with the template, and everybody's argument is the racing. If I take modifieds with no aero and I put them on Peevely and we're running 12-second lap times and it's wet, all them modifieds don't put on a good race. They have no aero. They're not punching a big hole in the air. They're not racing well because they don't have motor or they don't have a big enough tire. There's a million reasons why they're not making or everybody's just super fast. And the guy that doesn't work on his race car still, as far as another racetrack, actually probably better than the guys that are stuck in another racetrack. The races are not bad because of the aero. There are very, very few racetracks that you could paint an argument that race was lost because, or wasn't a good race because of aero. Maybe Knoxville, maybe Volusia, maybe Eldora, like big half miles. I can't tell you a race that we've seen on a racetrack smaller than a half mile that was lost or won because of aero. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of games being played, which maybe we can rein that in, but let's do it off of measurements. Let's not, the template deal's a bad deal. Me and Gordy talked for a half an hour, I don't know what, Wednesday or Tuesday. And there are just so much better ways to do this that just make way more sense. And I think the series need to get some drivers involved, and not just national level drivers too, some local drivers that understand really what it takes that have good looking bodies, that, go to these races and get picked apart and say, you need to move this brace and that brace and this brace. You need to suck your right front fender in. Like, well, wait a minute. That guy's got a $50,000 motor. You're worried about my fender being out too far an inch? Like, my motor's from 1995. Like, I promise you my fender is not going to be what makes me or breaks me. Like, I just think we need to have some common sense with it. We're not going 150 mile an hour, rarely. So let's rein this in and use a little bit of common sense. And I don't know, if you got problems on half miles, let's put a 5-inch blade on the back. Let's find a different way. And I think it'll help a lot of the guys like Matt Bailey or, Tony Wolf, guys that like going to them races and enjoying the Doug Ty, like, goes to all them races, goes to more big races than I go to. That man's not going to be able to keep a body on the car that'll fit a template. Because he's pounding sheet metal out and pounding deck panels out and, straightening T-bars. He's not putting new on all the time. Well, I promise you, to pass the template rule, if it gets bent, it's getting tossed in the scrap pile and you're putting a new one on to pass that template to where you don't get told to go home. So we got to find a different way.
So do you think there should be more or less tech?
I don't mind tech. I just think it needs to be, pull me into a chalk box. Our hubs are all generally in the same spot. Our rear end's generally in the same spot. Take a measurement off the hub, go to the rear spoiler. Take a measurement off the front hub, go to the front of the nose, because there's a lot of games being played with how far you can protrude the nose out and where the roof is, the skew of the car. There's just an easier way. Gordy made the comment, I think Turbo did several years ago, you could pull through a square set of poles. And if you're hitting either set of the poles, let's say it's 98 inches wide. Let's say make it 96. I think the widest trailer you can pull into is a 96-inch trailer. If you are rubbing either side of that pole on 96 inches, you got to suck the body in somewhere, man. I don't care if it's the left front fender hitting it. I don't care if it's the right rear quarter panel in it. Suck one of them in and make it pass through here. If your roof's 54 inches in the air because you're trying to get that roof slammed in the air and a bunch of rake in it to slam the car to the ground, well, your roof's got to come down. I don't care what you got. I don't care if you got to go home and cut the frame off of it. Every one of these cars, we can put a roof height to it, and it'll be generally all in the same spot. So other than guys that are trying to manipulate the system and build cages that are Austin Kirkpatrick, great guy, very in front of everything. But you look at his roof rake, like he's building a cage to maximize his roof rake or whatever. There's just better ways to do it. And I think they need to keep that in mind, that there are guys that are running the same body all year round. It's not like JD gets a dent in the left rear door. The door comes off when he goes home for the weekend and a new door gets put on. Well, that door is a $100 piece of sheet metal, $100 decal. Daryn Klein's not putting a door on. He's beating the door out. So we don't need templates or noses. Like, same deal. Like, my dad is notorious for getting the porta power out and straightening a nose, straightening a bumper. You're not going to pass a tech deal where they're putting the nose where it needs to be on that deal. So And we need to keep in mind how fast we're going. Sprint cars don't do it, and they're going 40-mile-an-hour faster at every racetrack, I swear to God, that we go to. So why don't they need it? So it's just very odd to me. We just need to rein it in and be constructive with what we're doing. There's so much more that they could do with tire rule. Like, why are we are the most expensive class in the pit area, and we go to a local race and we have no tire to play with. You run a modified, you can put a 60, a 30 on the right rear. You can do your own deal. Like, I go to Peevely, I got to run a 40 on the right rear, which I get it. We're trying to save money on tires, but like, let us run, especially in bigger races, longer races, let us run different tires. You'll have comers and goers. You'll have a guy like a bottom feeder, a Dennis Erb, a Gordy Gundecker, a Tanner English that's going to kind of cheat the system, and he's going to run 20s and a right rear 30 because he's planning on like hunkering down on that hub and waiting it out. And then you're going to have a guy like Bobby who might put a 30 on the left rear, a 30 on the right front, maybe not, maybe put a 20 on the right front, and then put a 40 on the right rear. And he's going to go and say, hey, I'm going to live and die on the middle of the racetrack to the top of the racetrack, and I don't care that my left rear's in some shit, and because I'm not going to seal it up. And maybe Bobby's deal works, but maybe Bobby seals that left rear up halfway through the race, and then Gordy's able to work his way up through there and win the race. Like, you don't see that now because these guys are locked in this MLRA tire rule. Like, they're almost locked into a box where they have to run 20s on the left rear, right front, and they have an option on the right rear. Well, you're not going to run a lot of different, you don't have a lot of different options there. So it'd just be nice to see we all carry tires. I have a left rear 30. I have a right front 30 cut brand new in the trailer at all times for the Mars races and whatever races that are there. So we have them, but we'll go to a race and they're saying, well, you can't use them. Well, it'd make the racing better if they'd let us use them. I get it. It's a little bit more expensive to have them two tires right around with you, but I can promise you I'm going to kill that left rear 20. It's going to be junk. I'm not going to be able to ever use it again. There's maybe a chance that I don't kill that left rear 30, and I might be able to reuse that. So there's pluses and minuses to it. It's just not – I think they need more driver input. I think there's too many people that think they know what's going on, and they need to maybe like – it's kind of like the same thing that the Highland deal was. Maybe we ought to have a driver – we have the track committee. Maybe we should have a driver committee before we make a committee change or a rules change. Maybe we should see how the drivers feel about it and have a lot of representation of them drivers in this committee. Like, we can have a guy that's just doing it as a hobby. Weekend warrior, Todd Regg. We can have a guy like Doug Ty, who likes to travel, can see what's going on in other series, and maybe a lot of input from him. We can have a guy that's invested in it like I am that could talk to it, or I would rather not be involved in it, but whatever. You just get a group of a large sample pool of different people and see what they think about it before we make these changes. And I think the national level needs to do the same thing. Get some regional guys they like to work with, get some national guys they like to work with, and maybe grab a local guy here or there that they can, from different regions, and say, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. How would it affect your program? Is it going to cost you money? Is it going to save you money? Is it going to make your job easier? Is it going to make your job harder? And before we just say, hey, this is what we're doing because it's in the benefit of making the aero simpler, I don't know. So that's where I stand on all that.
Was Gordy at the MLRA race where they were testing out that template?
They were. Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So what?
And I think also what aggravated him is, so like when you go to these races, you'll get teched on a Thursday when you get there, or Friday afternoon when you get there, and they'll come by and check you, right? And they'll say, hey, you need to suck this in, you need to do this, you need to do this. And normally it's very simple stuff. These guys are all easygoing. Rick Schwally, Steve Francis, everybody that's ever checked our car, it's not that big of a deal, right? It's not like they come in and say, we're kicking you out if you don't do this. It's like, hey, man, like, we get it. Try to make this the best you can with what you got. So super great. But where it comes in a problem is like they might miss something on a Friday, and then you race there on a Saturday, and they'll come back through and be like, oh, well, now yesterday we were focused on your how far your right rear quarter panel was from the hub, and now we're focused on your fender and the rake of it, and it's like, wait a minute, let's simplify this. Let's all focus on what we're focused on. We can all see what's going on. Like, you got to be blind if you don't see the roofs moving forward. You got to be blind if you don't see the roofs moving to the left. You got to be blind if you don't see the noses getting wider. We all know what the top drivers are working on, and that shit just trickles downstream. So when they do it, we respond to it, and then it all builds out. So it's very simple for them to kick it in the butt where it starts, because they're dealing with them guys every single week. You know, Ricky Thornton's the one that shoved the roof forward and moved it to the left and widened his nose. Like, it kind of all started with the Longhorn camp. You know, not just Ricky Thornton, but it started with that camp. And XR1 just responded to it. Now we're all just doing it. So it's just, I don't know. I think it's just simpler if they would just rein it in a little bit off of a tape measure. And I think all of our lives would be easier. If you want to take a measurement across the front of the fender floppers and say, hey, 93 inches is wide enough. If you're wider than 93 inches, take your shit home, or zip the freaking fender off of it and re-rivet it on. Same deal. Like, if the skew deal works, there's a lot of tricks that you can play with it, but let us play our tricks. As long as we're within skew and we're within your measurement, like, is it really that big of a deal? I promise you, Bobby Pierce has the most standard Longhorn body if you ever looked at it. Like, look at all the crazy Longhorn bodies. Look at when Wells was in one, like all them guys. Bobby Pierce is like straight Longhorn. That kid's kicking everybody's ass. Is it body? You know, like, you gotta, at some point, we gotta like be normal with it. And, you know, we're going 100 mile an hour, not 150, 200 mile an hour.
Well, Jacob, we're getting close to that special hour mark. Why don't you fast forward to your last question on the list, and then I'm going to hit him with the rapid fire questions.
Okay. So what was your most memorable moment on the track so far in your career?
Man, winning a fair race at Highland is, I'm not like just saying that because it's Highland, you know, podcast, but that's pretty cool. That place is popping. I go there for the tractor pulls. I go there for whatever. Combine Demolition Derby, we went last year. Like, it's cool seeing that amount of people in that place that are all local, that they all come down afterwards. They're all drinking beer. It's just like a national holiday. It's so weird. It's so hard to explain, and that's really fun. My wife's from Highland. Normally her entire family's there and gets to be a part of it. So I really, really enjoy them couple wins that I have down there. And so I'd probably say that.
Do you have any pre-race rituals or superstitions?
No, not really. I try to slam an energy drink or take a workout pill because I like to get the jitters. It's really weird. I like to be amped up. It's something that's pretty odd with myself, I've been told, but I'll do that and then just watch the racetrack. I love taking the four-wheeler up and looking at the racetrack 5, 6, 8 times a night.
Well, I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire questions. So you just give me a quick answer, okay?
All right.
All right, let's do it. So Busch Light or Miller Light? I think I know
Busch
where
Light.
we're going here. Boating or camping?
Boating.
Beer or whiskey?
Beer. No whiskey.
World of Outlaws or Lucas Oil?
Ooh. Lucas Oil.
All right. Chevy or Ford?
Ford.
Okay. Dogs or cats?
Oh, God, dogs.
All right. Sandals or Crocs?
Sandals.
Okay. McDonald's or Taco Bell?
Taco Bell.
Milwaukee or DeWalt?
Milwaukee. Although Milwaukee or DeWalt's new Riveter is pretty badass for the race cars. So
Casey's or CC Food Mart?
CC Food Mart.
All right. Ripping the wall down or catfish in the bottom?
Ripping the wall down.
All right. And black dirt or red clay?
I have only raced on one racetrack with red dirt, so I would say black clay. But the racetrack that I have ran that was red dirt is pretty badass, and I'm really sad that you guys scheduled on top of their race. It's Farmington, and I'm so sad that you guys have a Mars race for that race because I really, 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 really want to be at Farmington, but got to go to Highland.
Gotcha. All right. We're going to win you some brownie points here. Single or married?
Married.
And pets or babies?
At this point, we've been trying for so long for a baby. I really, really, really want a baby at this point. So that's going to make my wife happy too. So we're ready for one.
That's great. Well, thanks for being a good sport and playing along. Jacob, did you have any other last questions for Daryn?
I do not.
Okay. Well, Daryn, did you have a good time? We appreciate you joining us.
Really good time, guys. Thank you.
Yep. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to, sponsors, anything like that?
Everybody that helps us, and especially my crew guys, man. I literally, I know it kind of sounds like a broken record, but man, I literally, the way we do it and the way I do it, I couldn't do it without them guys. So Hauser, Jason, my dad, Nicholas, Ogre, Max when he helps, everybody. They're just my Uncle Dave. I literally couldn't do it without them guys. They eat and breathe it more than I do. So this deal's for them. So, and anytime I talk or successful, it's for them. So I really can't. I don't show my appreciation enough in face because that's not who I am. So when I can, I try to show it.
Yep. Well, I'm sure they'll be recording this now and, playing this back, to you later on. But I think, great to give a shout out to your team there. Well, folks, he's a fun one to watch. So keep an eye on him this summer. I think he's going to do something special. And thanks again, Daryn, for joining us tonight.
Not a problem, guys. Have a good one.
Yep. And also like to thank my co-host tonight on the Highland Dirt Podcast, Jacob Blumenstein. So, Jacob, tell everybody where they can find you during the day.
You can find me at Jansen Chevrolet in Germantown. Again, anything on our 3 lots, I can sell you.
And let me remind everybody, the Highland Dirt Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Jansen Auto Group. Hundreds of vehicles are available right now at gojansen.com with Jansen Ford a Breeze, Jansen Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram and Carmi, and Jansen Chevrolet in Germantown. They have just the vehicle you're looking for. You can search their entire inventory at gojansen.com. That's gojansen.com. Jansen Auto Group is proud to support local dirt track racing and world famous Highland Speedway. Well, folks, do you want to be featured on the Highland Dirt Podcast? Maybe you want to sponsor a sign or a race at the Speedway. Last year, we reached more than 5 million people through social media. We set records for attendance and car counts, and it's only going up from there. So shoot us an email at highlanddirtpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll get you more information. Well, you know what that music means. Make sure you follow the Highland Speedway and Highland Dirt Podcast on all the socials, Facebook, YouTube, X, and TikTok. And next up at Highland Speedway are the Super Late Models and Daryn Klein this Saturday, April 27th. And you can download this episode where you find all your favorite podcasts, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review. And I'm Kurt Vonder, Haar, your host of the Highland Dirt Podcast. And remember, folks, whether it's Peevely, Brownstown, Tri-City, Belle Claire, Highland, or your home track, get out there and support your local dirt track, would you? We'll see you guys next week.